The wrench slipped from my greasy fingers as Lana's voice cut through the garage like a rusty blade. I'd been under the hood of her precious BMW for 2 hours, trying to figure out why it kept stalling when she appeared in the doorway like some avenging angel in designer heels. Either you agree to my parents moving in with us, or I'm done with this marriage. I straightened up slowly, wiping my hands on an old rag. 23 years of marriage, and it had come to this. An ultimatum delivered while I fixed her car for free, something she'd pay $200 for at any other shop in town. When exactly did you plan this little announcement? I asked, keeping my voice level. Before or after I got your engine running again? She crossed her arms, that familiar look of disgust creeping across her face. The same expression she wore when discussing my quaint little business with her real estate friends. I'm serious, Jack. They need help, and we have the space. It's what families do. Families, I laughed, tossing the rag onto my workbench. Is that what we are? Because last I checked, families don't issue ultimatums in garages. Lana's jaw tightened. She hated when I got sarcastic, but after 2 decades of her condescension, sarcasm was about all I had left. You know what your problem is? She said, stepping closer. You think this little grease monkey operation makes you something special. Meanwhile, I'm out there making real money, building a real career. Real career. I nodded thoughtfully. Is that what they're calling it now? Something flickered in her eyes. Guilt? Fear? It was gone before I could be sure. I don't have time for your jealousy, Jack. I need an answer by tomorrow night, or I'm calling my lawyer. She turned on her heel and stalked back toward the house, leaving me standing there with oil under my fingernails and rage building in my chest like steam pressure. I'd built Brennan Auto Repair from nothing, bought this property when it was just a vacant lot, constructed the garage with my own hands, built a customer base through honest work and fair prices. But to Lana, it would always be just a little grease monkey operation. That night, I lay in bed listening to her text someone. The soft tap-tap-tap of her fingers on the screen went on for nearly an hour. When I rolled over to look, she angled the phone away from me. Work stuff, she said without looking up. At midnight? Real estate doesn't keep bankers' hours. I stared at the ceiling and wondered when my wife had become a stranger. When had we stopped talking and started trading insults? When had she started treating me like hired help in my own home? The texting finally stopped around 1 a.m. Lana set her phone on the nightstand and turned away from me, pulling the covers up to her chin. Think about what I said, Jack. I meant every word. I waited until her breathing became deep and regular, then slipped out of bed. Her phone sat there on the nightstand, screen dark, holding whatever secrets she'd been typing for the past hour. But I wasn't ready to cross that line yet. Not quite. Instead, I went downstairs and poured myself 3 fingers of bourbon, sat at the kitchen table and tried to figure out how my marriage had turned into a business negotiation. When had love become leverage? The house felt different in the darkness, colder, like something had shifted in the foundation, and now everything was slightly off-kilter. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I thought about her parents, Harold and Margaret, 2 of the most judgmental people I'd ever met. Harold had never forgiven me for not going to college, for working with my hands instead of pushing papers around an office. Margaret had spent 20 years dropping hints about Lana settling when she married me. The idea of them living under my roof, criticizing my every move, treating me like the hired help in my own home, made my stomach turn. But the alternative was divorce, starting over at 45, splitting everything I'd worked for down the middle, watching Lana walk away with half my life's work. I finished the bourbon and went back upstairs. Lana hadn't moved, but her phone was buzzing softly against the nightstand. A text message at 2 a.m. This time, I looked. The message was from someone named B. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Same place, same time. Wear the red dress. My hands started shaking. I set the phone down carefully, exactly where it had been, and walked to the bathroom. Splashed cold water on my face and stared at myself in the mirror. 23 years. 2 decades of building something together, or so I'd thought. But apparently, Lana had been building something else entirely. I went back to bed and lay there until dawn, staring at the ceiling, planning my next move. The next morning, Lana was gone before I got up. Her car started perfectly, purring like a satisfied cat as she backed out of the driveway. All that work I'd done the night before, and she didn't even say thank you. I opened the shop at 7, same as always. My first customer was Mrs. Patterson, needing an oil change on her ancient Corolla. She'd been coming to me for 15 years, trusted me completely, always paid in cash. How's Lana doing? She asked while I worked. Saw her picture in the paper again, that big sale on Maple Street. She's doing great. I said, checking her oil level. Really making a name for herself. Must be proud of her. All those fancy clients, those big commissions. Very proud. But pride wasn't what I was feeling. Suspicion had taken up residence in my chest, growing stronger with every passing hour. I spent the morning going through the motions, changing oil, rotating tires, replacing brake pads, but my mind was elsewhere, replaying that text message over and over. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Same place, same time. Wear the red dress. Lana had a red dress. Bought it 3 months ago. Claimed it was for client meetings. Said it made her look professional and confident. Around noon, I called her office. Brennan Realty, this is Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer, it's Jack. Is Lana available? Oh, hi, Mr. Brennan. I'm sorry, but Lana's out showing properties all afternoon. She said she might not be back until late. Any idea which properties? A pause. I don't have her exact schedule. Would you like her to call you back? No, that's okay. I'll catch her at home. But I wouldn't be waiting at home. For the first time in 23 years, I was going to follow my wife. I closed the shop early and drove to her office. Parked across the street where I could see the parking lot but stay hidden behind a delivery truck. Felt like a private detective in some cheap thriller, except this was my real life falling apart. At 4:30, Lana's BMW pulled into the lot. She got out wearing the red dress, looking around nervously before walking quickly to the building. 20 minutes later, she came back out. But instead of getting in her car, she walked to a black Mercedes that had just pulled up. The driver was a man I didn't recognize. Tall, expensive suit, the kind of guy who never had grease under his fingernails. They didn't kiss, didn't even touch, but there was something intimate in the way they looked at each other. Something that made my chest tighten with a mixture of rage and heartbreak. I followed them through downtown traffic, staying back far enough to avoid detection. They pulled into the parking lot of the Riverside Inn, a place that catered to business travelers and people who needed privacy. I parked behind a van and watched them walk into the hotel together. Lana's hand briefly touched his arm, a gesture so casual and familiar it might as well have been a signed confession. I sat there for 2 hours, engine off, windows cracked, watching the hotel entrance like a man waiting for his own execution. When they finally came out, Lana's hair was slightly messed up, her lipstick gone. They stood by his car talking in low voices, and then he handed her something small. An envelope. Money? A gift? Another hotel keycard? I followed Lana home, staying well behind her, my mind racing with possibilities. By the time I pulled into our driveway, I'd made a decision. The gloves were coming off. Lana was in the shower when I got home. I could hear the water running upstairs, could picture her washing away the evidence of her afternoon activities. The thought made me sick. I went to her purse, sitting on the kitchen counter like it always did. For 23 years, I'd never violated her privacy, never gone through her things. But 23 years of trust had apparently been one-sided. Inside, I found what I was looking for, a hotel keycard from the Riverside Inn. Not just today's, but 3 others from different hotels around the city. She'd been collecting them like trophies. There were receipts, too, expensive restaurants I'd never been to, boutique shops where she'd bought lingerie I'd never seen. All paid for with our joint credit card, all while she lectured me about being financially responsible. My phone buzzed, a text from my old friend Danny, who tended bar at O'Malley's downtown. Saw your wife tonight with some suit. Looked pretty cozy. Thought you should know. I typed back. Thanks. What did the guy look like? Tall, dark hair, expensive everything. Drives a black Mercedes. They come in about once a week. Always sit in the back booth. Once a week. This had been going on for months, maybe longer. While I was working 12-hour days to keep our household afloat, Lana was playing house with Mr. Mercedes. The shower stopped running. I quickly put everything back in her purse and went to the garage, pretending to clean up my tools. Jack? Lana called from upstairs. Did you think about what we discussed? Still thinking, I called back. But I wasn't thinking about her parents anymore. I was thinking about revenge. The next morning, I made coffee and waited for Lana to come downstairs. She appeared in a navy business suit, all professional competence and marital authority. I need your answer today, she said, pouring herself a cup. My parents are waiting to hear from us. I've got a question first, I said. Who's B? She froze with the coffee cup halfway to her lips. What? B, the person who texts you at midnight, the one who wants to see you in your red dress. Her face went white, then red, then settled into a mask of indignant fury. You went through my phone? I didn't have to. You left it buzzing on the nightstand at 2 a.m. Hard to ignore. She set the cup down with shaking hands. You have no right to spy on me. And you have no right to cheat on me, but here we are. For a moment, I thought she might confess, might break down and admit everything, beg for forgiveness, promise to end it. Instead, she straightened her shoulders and looked me in the eye. I don't know what you think you saw, but you're wrong. B is a client. Brent Morrison. He's buying a commercial property, and the negotiations are complex. Sometimes we have to meet outside normal business hours. At hotels? At restaurants, near hotels. Jack, you're being paranoid. She was good. I had to give her that. Smooth as silk. Not a crack in her story. If I hadn't seen them together, hadn't found the keycards, I might have believed her. Okay, I said. I believe you. Relief flooded her face. Good. Now about my parents. Give me until tonight. I'll have an answer for you then. She kissed my forehead like I was a child who'd finally learned to behave. Thank you. I know this is hard, but family comes first. After she left, I sat at the kitchen table and planned my next move. If Lana wanted to play games, I'd show her how games were really played. I spent the day at the shop, but my heart wasn't in it. Every customer who walked through the door got the same distracted service, the same forced smile. My mind was elsewhere, working through possibilities. At 5 o'clock, I closed up and drove to the Riverside Inn. The desk clerk was a kid, maybe 22, with bad skin and a name tag that said Tyler. Help you, sir? I hope so. My wife was supposed to meet a client here yesterday, but she thinks she might have left her earrings in the room. Brent Morrison was the name on the reservation. Tyler's fingers clicked across the keyboard. Morrison? Yeah, here it is. Room 237. But, sir, I can't just let you into a guest room without... I pulled out my wallet and laid a 50 on the counter. She's really worried about those earrings. They belonged to her grandmother. The 50 disappeared into Tyler's pocket. I'll need to escort you up there, make sure nothing's missing. Of course. Room 237 was a standard business suite, but it told a story. 2 wine glasses on the table, both with lipstick stains. The bed was made, but rumpled, like housekeeping had done their best to hide what had happened there. In the bathroom, I found what I was looking for. A small earring, silver with a blue stone. Not Lana's grandmother's earrings, but Lana's earrings. The ones I'd bought her for our anniversary 2 years ago. Found them, I told Tyler, pocketing the evidence. Driving home, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Control. For the first time since this nightmare started, I was the one with the cards. Lana was waiting for me in the kitchen, still in her business suit, drumming her fingers on the table. Well, she said, what's your decision? I sat down across from her and smiled. I've been thinking about what you said, about family coming first. And? You're absolutely right. Family should come first. Loyalty, honesty, commitment, all those old-fashioned values. Hope flickered in her eyes. So you'll agree? My parents can move in? I didn't say that. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the earring, setting it on the table between us. I said I've been thinking about family values. She stared at the earring like it was a poisonous snake. Where did you find that? Room 237 at the Riverside Inn, right where you left it yesterday afternoon. The color drained from her face, but she rallied quickly. Jack, I can explain. No need. I understand perfectly. You've been conducting business with Brent Morrison in hotel rooms, very thorough customer service. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. The question is, what are we going to do about it? She leaned forward, desperation creeping into her voice. Jack, please. It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. A mistake that's been going on for months? A mistake that requires hotel keycards and expensive lingerie? Her mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Finally, she found her voice. What do you want? I want honesty. I want respect. I want my wife back. You have me. This thing with Brent, it's over. I'll end it tomorrow. Will you? I swear. Jack, I love you. I know I haven't shown it lately, but I do. We can work through this. I studied her face, looking for sincerity, for any sign that she meant what she was saying. But all I saw was calculation. She was trying to figure out how to minimize the damage, how to keep her comfortable life intact while continuing her affair. Okay, I said finally. We'll try. Relief flooded her features. Thank you. Jack, I promise you won't regret this. Just one condition. Anything. Your parents aren't moving in? This house has enough problems without adding 2 more? She nodded eagerly. Of course. You're right. We need to focus on us. I went to bed that night knowing my wife was lying next to me, planning her next move. But for the first time in months, I was planning too. And my plan was better than hers. 3 days passed in artificial harmony. Lana made coffee in the morning. asked about my day, even cooked dinner twice. She was trying so hard to play the perfect wife that it was almost comical. But I knew she was still seeing him. The signs were all there, mysterious phone calls, sudden errands, that guilty look she got when she thought I wasn't watching. On Thursday afternoon, Danny called from O'Malley's. "Your wife's here again," he said quietly. "Same booth, same guy. Thought you'd want to know." "Thanks, Danny. I owe you. Just looking out for a friend." I closed the shop early and drove downtown. This time I wasn't just going to watch. This time I was going to get proof. O'Malley's was an old-school bar with dark wood paneling and dim lighting, perfect for clandestine meetings. I slipped in through the side entrance and found a spot at the bar where I could see the back booths without being seen. There they were, Lana and Brent Morrison, sitting close together, speaking in hushed tones. He was everything I wasn't, polished, sophisticated, the kind of man who wore $1,000 suits and never had to worry about getting his hands dirty. I pulled out my phone and started recording, got clear shots of them holding hands across the table, of him stroking her cheek, of her laughing at something he whispered in her ear. Then I got the money shot. Brent reached into his jacket and pulled out a small wrapped box. Jewelry from the size of it. Lana opened it with trembling fingers, her face lighting up with genuine joy, the kind of joy I hadn't seen from her in years. She leaned across the table and kissed him. Not a quick peck, but a real kiss, passionate and hungry. The kiss of a woman in love. I had enough. More than enough. But as I was getting ready to leave, I heard something that stopped me cold. "When are you going to tell him?" Brent was asking. "Soon," Lana replied. "I just need to figure out the timing. Jack's not going to make this easy." "You said he already knows about us." "He suspects, but he doesn't know how serious we are. He doesn't know about the plans." "What plans?" I wondered, leaning closer. "Once the divorce is final, we'll have everything we need," Lana continued. "The house, the business, half of everything he's worked for, plus my savings, your investments. We'll be set for life." Brent smiled. "And your parents?" "They'll love the new arrangement. A son-in-law with real money, real prospects, not some grease monkey who thinks fixing cars is a career." The contempt in her voice hit me like a physical blow. 23 years of marriage, and this was what she really thought of me. Not just unfaithful, but actively plotting to destroy everything I'd built. I left the bar with my evidence and drove home in a rage that threatened to consume me. But by the time I pulled into the driveway, the rage had crystallized into something colder and more dangerous. Determination? Lana came home 2 hours later, humming softly to herself. She was wearing the jewelry Brent had given her, a delicate gold necklace that probably cost more than most people made in a month. "New necklace?" I asked casually. Her hand flew to her throat. "Oh, this old thing? I've had it for ages." "Looks expensive?" "It was a gift from my mother, years ago." Another lie, delivered with the same smooth confidence as all the others. I was beginning to understand that my wife was a natural-born liar, and I'd been too trusting to see it. "How was your day?" she asked, changing the subject. "Productive. Very productive." That night, after she fell asleep, I transferred the videos from my phone to my laptop, watched them over and over, studying every gesture, every expression, planning my next move. I had the evidence I needed to expose her affair. But that wasn't enough anymore. She wanted to take everything from me? Fine. 2 could play that game, but I was going to play it better. Friday morning, I made a decision that would have seemed impossible a week earlier. I was going to war with my own wife. First stop, the bank. I walked into First National with a manila folder full of evidence and asked to speak with the manager. "Mr. Brennan," said Patricia Wells, a woman I'd known for 15 years, "what can I do for you?" "I need to protect my assets. I have reason to believe my wife is planning to leave me and take everything she can get her hands on." Patricia's expression grew serious. "That's a grave accusation. I have proof." I showed her the hotel receipts, all paid for with our joint credit card. "She's been having an affair for months, using our money to finance it." "What do you want to do?" "I want to move my business accounts to individual accounts. I want to protect the assets I brought into this marriage." It took 2 hours, but when I left the bank, Lana's access to our joint funds was severely limited. She could still pay household expenses, but she couldn't clean out our savings or use our credit cards for her romantic getaways. Next stop, my lawyer. Tom Bradley had handled the legal work when I bought the garage, and I trusted him to be discreet. "Divorce?" he asked after I explained the situation. "Maybe. But first, I want to know where I stand. The business, the house, everything we own together. What would happen if she filed tomorrow? Tom pulled out a legal pad and started making notes. Pennsylvania is an equitable distribution state, which means the court tries to divide assets fairly, not necessarily equally. The fact that you built the business before the marriage works in your favor. What about her affair? Adultery can be a factor, but it's not automatic. You'd need solid proof. I showed him the videos from O'Malley's. His eyebrows went up. This is good. Very good. But Jack, are you sure you want to go down this road? Divorce is expensive, emotionally and financially. She's already going down that road. I'm just making sure I don't get run over. That afternoon, I did something I'd never done before. I hired a private investigator. Mike Torres was a former cop who specialized in matrimonial cases. His office was a cramped space above a sandwich shop, but his reputation was solid. How long has this been going on? He asked after reviewing my evidence. Months, maybe longer. I want to know everything. Where they go, what they do, how often they meet. I want a complete picture. That's going to cost you. I don't care. My wife is planning to take me for everything I'm worth. I need ammunition. Mike nodded. I'll start surveillance tomorrow. Give me a week, and I'll have enough evidence to bury her in court. I drove home feeling like a different person. For months, I'd been reacting to Lana's moves, always one step behind. Now I was taking control, making my own moves, but the best was yet to come. That evening, Lana announced she was going out with her friend Nina from work. Girls' night, she said. We're going to that new wine bar on 5th Street. Have fun, I said, kissing her cheek like the devoted husband I was pretending to be. An hour after she left, I called Mike Torres. She's on the move, I said. Black BMW. License plate HBL 4429. I'm on it. While Mike followed my wife to whatever rendezvous she had planned, I went through her home office. Found bank statements showing large cash withdrawals, credit card bills for purchases I'd never seen, and a folder labeled Property Listings that contained information about houses in Florida. Florida. She was planning to leave the state. At the bottom of the folder was a handwritten note in Brent's handwriting. The condo in Miami is perfect, close to the beach, gated community far from Pennsylvania winters. We'll be happy there. They weren't just having an affair. They were planning a whole new life together, funded by my life's work. I photographed everything and put it back exactly as I'd found it. When Lana came home at midnight, I was in bed pretending to sleep. How was girls' night? I asked drowsily. Fine. Nina's having problems with her boyfriend. We talked for hours. Another lie. By now I was collecting them like baseball cards. The next morning, Mike Torres called with his first report. Your wife didn't go to any wine bar, he said. She went to Morrison's house. Big place in Shadyside, probably worth $2 million. They had dinner on the terrace, then went inside. I got photos of everything. How long was she there? 4 hours, left around 11:30. 4 hours. While I was going through her papers, discovering her plans to abandon our marriage and steal my assets, she was playing house with her boyfriend. Keep following her, I told Mike. I want to know everything. You got it. But Jack, what's your endgame here? You've got enough evidence to win any divorce proceeding. What else are you looking for? I thought about that question for a long time before answering. Justice, I said finally. I want justice. Mike Torres called me Monday morning with news that changed everything. You need to see this, he said. Can you meet me at my office? I closed the shop and drove downtown, my stomach churning with anticipation. Mike was waiting with a thick folder and a grim expression. Your wife and Morrison aren't just having an affair, he said without preamble. They're running a scam. He spread photographs across his desk. Lana and Brent at various locations around the city, always with other people I didn't recognize. Morrison's been using your wife to identify potential marks, Mike explained. Wealthy clients looking to buy or sell property. She gets them to trust her, then he swoops in with fraudulent investment opportunities. What kind of opportunities? Fake development projects, mostly. He shows them plans for condos or shopping centers that will never be built, takes their money, then disappears. Your wife provides the credibility he needs to pull it off. I stared at the photos, trying to process what I was hearing. How much money are we talking about? Based on what I've uncovered so far, at least $2 million over the past 18 months. $2 million. No wonder Lana had been buying expensive jewelry and planning a new life in Florida. She wasn't just cheating on me, she was helping to steal from innocent people. There's more, Mike said. I think they're planning to pin everything on you if they get caught. What do you mean? He pulled out a document I recognized. Incorporation papers for a shell company called Brennan Development, LLC. They filed this 6 months ago, using your name and social security number. On paper, you're the president of the company. If the authorities start investigating, guess who they're going to come looking for? My hands started shaking. That's identity theft, fraud. Among other things. Jack, your wife isn't just planning to leave you, she's planning to destroy you. I sat in stunned silence, trying to comprehend the magnitude of their betrayal. This wasn't just adultery anymore. This was criminal conspiracy, and I was being set up as the fall guy. What do I do? I asked. First, we document everything, then we take it to the FBI. Financial fraud across state lines is a federal crime. What about Lana? Mike's expression was sympathetic but firm. She made her choice, Jack. She chose to be a criminal. Now she has to face the consequences. I drove home in a daze, my mind reeling with implications. When I walked into the house, Lana was in the kitchen making dinner, humming the same tune she'd been humming all week. How was your day? She asked cheerfully. Educational, I replied. She gave me a curious look but didn't pursue it. We ate dinner in relative silence, both of us lost in our own thoughts. Afterwards, she went upstairs to take a bath, and I sat at the kitchen table staring at the evidence Mike had given me. My wife was a criminal. Not just unfaithful, not just planning to leave me, but actively engaged in defrauding innocent people out of their life savings. And she was setting me up to take the blame. The phone rang, interrupting my dark thoughts. Jack? It was my sister Carol, calling from Ohio. I just wanted to check in, see how you're doing. I'm fine, I lied. You don't sound fine. Is everything okay with you and Lana? Carol had never liked my wife, had always thought she was too ambitious, too cold. I'd defended Lana for years, but now I wondered if Carol had seen something I'd missed. We're going through a rough patch, I admitted. I'm sorry to hear that. You know, if you ever need to talk. Thanks, Carol. I might take you up on that. After I hung up, I realized how isolated I'd become. Lana had systematically separated me from my friends and family, always finding reasons why we couldn't visit Carol, why we didn't have time for my old buddies from high school. She'd created a bubble around our marriage, and now I understood why. She didn't want witnesses to what she was doing. I was still sitting at the kitchen table when she came downstairs in her robe, her hair wrapped in a towel. You look troubled, she said, sitting across from me. What's wrong? For a moment, I was tempted to confront her, to lay out everything I knew and demand an explanation. But something held me back. Maybe it was self-preservation, or maybe it was just morbid curiosity about how far she was willing to go. Just thinking about the business, I said, wondering if I should expand, maybe hire another mechanic. That sounds like a good idea. You work too hard. The concern in her voice sounded genuine, but I knew better now. Everything about Lana was calculated, designed to manipulate and control. I've been thinking about us too, I said, testing her reaction. Oh? About what you said the other night, about working through our problems. Relief flickered across her face. I meant every word, Jack. I want our marriage to work. Even if it means giving up other things, other relationships. Of course, you're my husband. You come first. The lies came so easily to her now that I wondered if she even knew she was lying anymore. Maybe she'd been deceiving people for so long that deception had become her natural state. I love you, Lana, I said, and for the first time in weeks, it wasn't entirely untrue. I did love her, or at least I loved the woman I'd thought she was. I love you too, she replied, reaching across the table to take my hand. But even as she said it, I could see her checking the time on the microwave clock, probably calculating when she could safely text Brent without arousing my suspicion. I went to bed that night knowing it would be one of the last nights I'd share a bed with my wife. Tomorrow, I was going to the FBI. Tomorrow, the woman lying next to me would become a fugitive. And somehow that knowledge didn't hurt as much as I'd expected it to. Tuesday morning, I did something I'd never done in 23 years of marriage. I called in sick to my own business. Instead of opening the shop, I drove to the federal building downtown and asked to speak with someone about financial fraud. An hour later, I was sitting across from Special Agent Rebecca Martinez, laying out the evidence that would destroy my wife's life. This is extensive, Agent Martinez said, reviewing Mike Torres's photographs and documents. How long have you known about this? I suspected the affair for weeks, but I only learned about the fraud yesterday. And you're certain your wife forged your signature on these incorporation documents? Positive. I've never seen them before in my life. Agent Martinez made notes in a thick file folder. Mr. Brennan, I have to ask, are you sure you want to proceed with this? Once we open an investigation, there's no going back. Your wife will likely face federal charges. I thought about that question for a long moment. 23 years of marriage, reduced to a decision in a federal office building. But then I remembered the contempt in Lana's voice when she'd called me a grease monkey to her lover. I remembered the plans to steal everything I'd worked for, to frame me for crimes I didn't commit. "I'm sure," I said. "All right. We'll need you to wear a wire. Try to get her to admit to the fraud on tape. Can you do that?" "Yes." Agent Martinez handed me a business card. "Go home, act normal. We'll contact you tomorrow with instructions." I drove home feeling like I was in a dream. Everything looked the same, my house, my neighborhood, my life, but everything had changed. By this time next week, Lana would probably be in federal custody. She was waiting for me when I got home, dressed for work in another expensive suit I'd never seen before. "Feeling better?" she asked. "You looked terrible this morning." "Much better. Just needed some rest." "Good. I have showings all afternoon, so I'll be late again. Don't wait up." She kissed my cheek and headed for the door, then stopped and turned back. "Jack, I know things have been difficult between us, but I want you to know how much I appreciate your patience. Not every man would be so understanding." "Not every woman would be worth it," I replied. She smiled, apparently taking that as a compliment, and left for another day of criminal activity. I spent the afternoon at the shop, trying to maintain some semblance of normalcy, but every customer who walked through the door seemed to sense that something was wrong. I was distracted, jumpy, making mistakes I hadn't made since I was an apprentice. Around 4 o'clock, Mike Torres called. "The FBI contacted me," he said. "They want copies of everything." I gave them what I had. "There's more. I followed Morrison to a meeting this morning. He's got at least 6 other people involved in this scheme, including 2 more real estate agents and a banker." "How big is this thing?" "Bigger than we thought. Jack, your wife isn't just a participant in this fraud. She's one of the ringleaders." That evening, Lana came home later than usual, looking flushed and excited. "Good day?" I asked. "Excellent day. I think we're about to close the biggest deal of my career." "Congratulations." She poured herself a glass of wine and sat down next to me on the couch. For a moment, she looked like the woman I'd married all those years ago. Beautiful, confident, full of dreams. "Jack, I've been thinking about what we discussed, about working on our marriage." "Yeah?" "I think we should take a vacation. Get away from everything. Just focus on each other." "Where did you have in mind?" "Somewhere warm, maybe Florida." Florida, where she and Brent had been planning their new life together. I wondered if this was part of their exit strategy, a way to get me out of town while they finished looting their victims and disappeared. "That sounds nice," I said. "When were you thinking?" "Soon, maybe next week." Next week, when the FBI investigation would be in full swing. The timing was too convenient to be coincidental. "I'll see if I can get someone to cover the shop," I said. "Thank you." She leaned over and kissed me, and for a moment I almost forgot that she was a criminal who was planning to destroy my life. Almost. The next morning, Agent Martinez called with instructions for the wire. I was to meet her team at a motel outside the city, where they would fit me with recording equipment and coach me on what to say. "Remember," she said as a technician taped a tiny microphone to my chest, "we need her to admit to the fraud in her own words. Don't lead her too much, but try to get her talking about the business, about Morrison, about the money. What if she suspects something? Then you abort the mission. Your safety is more important than the evidence." I drove home wearing a wire for the first time in my life, feeling like an actor in a crime drama. But this wasn't television. This was real, and the woman I was about to betray had been my wife for more than 2 decades. Lana was in the kitchen when I arrived, making dinner and humming that same tune she'd been humming all week. "Perfect timing," she said. "I made your favorite." Pot roast with vegetables, the meal she'd cooked for our first dinner together as newlyweds. The irony wasn't lost on me. We ate in comfortable silence, like an old married couple with nothing left to say to each other, which I supposed was exactly what we were. "Lana," I said finally, "I need to ask you something." "Of course." "This business with Brent Morrison, how serious is it?" She set down her fork and looked at me carefully. "What do you mean?" "I mean, are you planning to leave me for him?" For a long moment, she didn't answer. Then she reached across the table and took my hand. "Jack, I told you. That's over. Brent is just a client. A client who gives you jewelry." Her face went pale. "How did you—" "The necklace, Lana. I saw him give it to you at O'Malley's." She pulled her hand away from mine, and I could see her mind racing, calculating how much I knew and how much she could deny. "You followed me?" "I hired someone to follow you. I know about the hotels, the money, the plans to move to Florida. I know about all of it." "Jack, please, let me explain." "Then explain. Tell me about Brennan Development LLC. Tell me about the $2 million you and Morrison stole from your clients. The color drained from her face completely. I don't know what you're talking about. You used my name, Lana, my social security number. When the FBI catches up with you, I'm the one they're going to arrest first. The FBI? Her voice was barely a whisper. They're already investigating. It's over, Lana. The whole thing is over. She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see the exact instant when she realized that her carefully constructed world was collapsing around her. You bastard, she said quietly. You self-righteous, small-minded bastard. I'm not the one who committed fraud. No, you're just the one who turned in his own wife. She stood up from the table, her composure cracking. Do you have any idea what you've done? I've protected myself from criminals, including you. Criminals? She laughed bitterly. Jack, you have no idea how the world really works. You think fixing cars and paying taxes makes you noble. You're nothing. You've always been nothing. Maybe, but at least I'm not going to federal prison. 23 years, she said finally. 23 years I wasted on you. The feeling is mutual. She walked out of the kitchen without another word. I heard her footsteps on the stairs, heard drawers opening and closing in our bedroom. Packing, probably, getting ready to run, but it was too late for running. Agent Martinez and her team were already closing in, and by tomorrow morning, my wife would be in custody. I sat at the kitchen table, still wearing the wire, listening to the sounds of my marriage ending upstairs. After 23 years, it was finally over, and I was surprised to discover that I felt relieved.